How do you turn the screen on?
What's your duties? We were talking about that last time. You're like, I want the whole thing. It's like, yeah, me too, but I didn't want to wait for us.
Quiet. Do you know how to turn the get the camera going?
Do you know how to turn the next
Oh, okay. There we go. Sir? Get through that. I just thought it helps me not to go too fast and be done in 10 minutes. Well, developing professionally is what we're doing. Developing what? Professionally. Emily called it as a young teacher, but I'm not sure where she moved into. Were they originally in this room?
Yeah, creative concepts with Julie.
Where'd Emily?
I bet a lot of people.
Emily, I'm sorry. Where's Julie's workshop? Okay, that's what we were just making sure.
I gotta come up with something on that.
They said hers is canceled.
Hers is canceled. Oh, hers is canceled.
Hers is canceled. Turn around and go back.
So unless there's another one you want to look at, not at all. I'll ask for your input.
What is this?
This is old people who are trying to be young.
Oh.
Electricity 101, anyone, any pictures? It's okay if you don't have your wire, I think they got plan B. Electricity 101. Are we happy here? Do you want to go to electricity 101? It's okay if you don't have wire. Maybe they have a plan B.
The materials for electricity 101 will be posted online, like the worksheet and stuff.
Well, it's currently empty.
It's 3 hours, right?
So also 3 hours. Might not take plan B, might not take 3 hours. Anyone? That's okay.
Where's it at?
These are the two best we got. It's in 439. Love you all. Enjoy it. Go.
We went to Roland and did it.
What'd you say?
I said we went to Roland and did it. Like
The electricity?
yeah. I feel a little
Electricity? Have fun.
Oh.
You're not gonna hurt feelings if you just itch.
No, we're good. We can learn stuff that work. All
right, we're going to get started. I'm Melinda Tague from Washington, and
Tim White from Tipton.
Emily hit us up a week or two ago about putting together something that would be used. I think she was primarily thinking young teachers, just getting started, but obviously not everyone in here is a young teacher. So we may call on some extra ideas as far as professional development. Initially, she said something about a dress and attire, and then as we kind of got to thinking, that is not the only thing that makes you a professional is how you dress. So kind of putting some ideas together, and many of these things that we kind of use as bullet points on here are things that most of you all know, and typing them out. I got to thinking this is just kind of common sense and basically good character. When you have good character and individual integrity, I think you have a tendency to be a better professional. Because a lot of what professionalism is how you treat people. Looking up the definition, practice of doing one's job with skill, competence, ethics, and courtesy. So probably most of you can think of someone that you would say is the ultimate professional in our industry, in ag education, in any industry that you can think of. There are just those folks that fall right into that classification and you think of them very quickly. There are others you may think, maybe not quite so professional. Not that they're not still getting the job done sometimes, but maybe in how they handle some things. I think Emily's thought was, as young teachers coming out, maybe some of the things they've seen or do, partly because of social media, is a huge influence on how they handle situations. Just this last year, I had a great student teacher, and is going to be joining the ranks of Owasso. But I had a fellow teacher at Washington that had an English student teacher out of that university just north of Washington, that, if you don't know where Washington is, that would be Norman, that was not very adept at her professionalism, making TikToks, sitting in the back of the room when she was still doing her teaching, and then posting them, and the kids saw them, and she shared them, and just little things like that, that not, hopefully, most of our young teachers have been drilled in their head. Social media is not the way to go. But I think different areas may not emphasize that as much as others. You would think all of them do anymore. But I just found this little quote, kind of thought it says a lot about what this is. Being a professional is doing the things you love to do on the days you don't feel like doing them. And there are days that we are worn out, coming back from OIE. Oh boy, those kids are going to all miss school that next day we go to class. And you're like, you better be in class today. We've had state convention for 2 days in a location. We've never had it before. You better be at school tomorrow because we had tornadoes we were fighting through on the way home. And just that kind of stuff of just like not showing up are things that maybe some teachers even, I know kids want to do it, but a lot of teachers want to do it too. So we're just hitting on a few things that are kind of came to the, I guess, floated to the top and some highlights to hit on as we get going through this. Since most people do think dress when we talk about professionalism, we kind of thought we might start with that one. So this is more of a question to you all. What should you be wearing and what should you not be wearing when you go to school on a daily basis? Anyone want to give a good solid answer on that? As a recommendation, maybe even. Rose Bonjour recommendations are a little higher than maybe some of us want to hit sometimes. That would be a good way to start, though. If you're not following the students' dress code, maybe you need to reevaluate. That is a good one to start with. That's exactly right. The students' dress code, whatever it may be, if you don't look a notch above what the students are dressed like, then I think there may be some issues there.
If they can't tell you from the student population.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where dress codes, depending on your school district, can really vary on whether they get followed through or actually, what's the word I'm looking for, held up. Some let them skirt, literally skirt by. or lack of skirts by, and I know a lot of individuals, especially male teachers, are very uncomfortable saying anything to a young lady in a class, and it's like, well, I don't want to go to the office and say something about it, so we'll just let them go on a second hour, or whatever the case may be. But that kind of stuff, when you have teachers that you're questioning some of that, there's some issues there. If you're in a shop setting, and I know Ag Ed teaches this and hits this when you're going through college courses, jeans and a button-up shirt, if you're in the shop every day, you're not going to want to wear dress pants on a regular basis. If you're out working in the garden, or you're in a greenhouse, or you're doing things, you're getting dirty, cleaning out a show barn, you're not going to wear slacks on a daily basis. But just having that mindset of thinking about what are you going to be doing. When it's a day that you're in the classroom, maybe that's the day to step it up a little bit and show your kids, I do know how to pull a nice pair of slacks and a button-up shirt out of the closet every now and then. Mr. White?
And I think, I want to touch on the FFA side of it too. What do you expect your kids to wear when you get out in official dress? I mean, what do you guys, that's the question. How do you combat their professionalism, because you're exemplifying it, right? So what do you do? What are your thoughts on that? Yep.
We have the saying, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp.
That's a good one.
Good one. Anybody else? I mean, whenever you, for the first time, these kids you're saying, okay, you got to get in official dress, right? Professional dress, professional attire. How should you as an ag teacher be?
So my philosophy is if they're in official dress and I'm expecting them to wear a tie and slacks and everything, I should at least have that on as well. Depending on what's, if it's the contest or something, that's how I approach it.
Okay, how about you ladies? We got a lot of ladies in the room. How would you approach that? That's good advice.
I tell my girls if they're wearing heels, I'm wearing heels.
So very similar to what he said.
And I tell my girls, I'm not necessarily so big on skirt versus slacks or anything like that for my girls, but I tell them it better fit. If you're going to wear slacks, they need to be tailored, they need to look right, they need to look professional. As long as you look right, that's all I care about.
Awesome. Any other thoughts there? I see Bruce in the back, and I'll pick on you a little bit because the ultimate professional, you guys student taught under Mr. Farquhar, they're wearing ties a lot of the time. And how do you not just justify it, but tell us the reasoning why you do that, Bruce?
I think Brent already said it. If I expect a kid to be in a tie, and I want to set an example and be in a suit and tie myself, I don't particularly like kids wearing boots with official dress. So I don't wear boots. And in that sense, I wear a dress shoes. And it bleeds off to the kids. They see that.
So we know when we go to Altus, we know we're going to see a professional when we deal with Bruce Farquhar because he's already setting the stage, from day one. So those are good advices.
Well, and I think it also depends on your situation. Like if you're in the shop, I have my safety glasses on. I have full PPE for whatever we're doing. You model that behavior that you want from kids.
And that's the key right there, modeling it.
I'll also tell you, one of the best professionals we've ever had in this organization, retired last year, R.J. Curry. He was never officially dressed. He was always flowery shirts, right?
Yeah.
But that was R.J. Curry. But his talk was a lot better. It was more about his actions than what he wore. So it's kind of getting lost over that fact.
Exactly.
So.
Anything to avoid as a teacher as far as your dress and attire? Nothing, all right.
Ms. Sherman, have you got any ideas?
I did. I noticed in our spring meeting or our beginning of the summer meeting, Rose made a comment in our district that this was probably, she felt like this was one of the better professionally dressed years as far as the teachers were concerned that she'd seen, and was just kind of commending everybody for kind of following suit and being willing to put the slacks on and quit wearing jeans and make sure the shirts are tucked in when we were at professional events, obviously. So she's noticed maybe an uptrend in maybe the percentage of people that are willing to wear what they need to be wearing when they go to professional meetings and things like that. Because she does harp on it pretty good at our district meetings, I will say. And I think all of our supervisor area specialists do that anymore. And it's really important. No? All right, well, we'll get past the attire. I think that's kind of a given and been beaten down there. Those next few things are just kind of things that I will admit, I was sitting, the last 3 days I've been sitting in the hospital with my mother-in-law, rotating with my husband. So finally been looking up some of this stuff and thinking, and then finally plugged it into the slide. And this is one that kind of came to the top as far as something that was mentioned a lot, is just appreciating the chance to work together. Like stuff like this, professional development, workshops through the summer, our regional meetings. And I don't know if your regions have get-togethers. We've started working in kind of doing a regional meeting at the beginning of the school year again, just more of a social to kind of get together and visit before school gets really together. And I think when you're willing, especially as a young teacher, just getting started, if you're willing to go to some of this professional development and continue it, that is something that you kind of rise to the top as someone that stays more professional and you stay up on things that are going on. When we host different workshops, I hosted a CERT workshop at Washington last week, and the teachers that came were like, I never even knew Washington, where your ag, unless you come to the hog shows, you don't know where our ag building is at probably. But just the fact that we get to see what your shop looks like and going and seeing someone else's shop and seeing how you organize things. And I love going to different ag programs just to see how people do things, how they set things up, how they fix up their rooms, because it helps me. I can bring something back no matter who I've gone to and just kind of get it going in my own classroom a lot of the times. And I think that kind of stuff and having that mindset of continually looking for new things within our own groups is a great way to stay a little more adept on our professionalism.
And I think right here we can talk about NAAE. Probably have Cameron, discuss the importance of NAAE or even OAETA. And a lot of you are going to be you are the next professionals. I mean, some of us are getting, long in the tooth. It was said a little bit a while ago. But you guys, you're already embracing professional development. Being here last summer, that was a huge professional development. I mean, this generation is going to be a really awesome generation to be a part of. I just want you to remember the Region 2 that we are in. There's 5 states, and every summer, minus COVID years, we get together with all of those ag teachers from all of those other areas, and that's where you can kind of glean that professionalism and rob that professionalism from others. And so I would highly recommend those. 412 will pay for it 99% of the time. Mm-hmm. Cameron, what else can we say on the Region 2 as far as professionalism and how these guys can get involved?
I definitely think that since we have such an attitude of everyone pays their dues at the end, that obviously has some big benefits, but some of the downfalls is you have no idea sometimes what you're paying into and the opportunities that you can be gleaning from. And so NAA, the National Association of Agricultural Educators, is the national organization, and they represent ag teachers from across the nation. So like you said, Region 2 is the summer conference, usually this week or next week, and so we're going to be in Ruidoso, New Mexico next week. And that's where I learned that PD was more than just the new teacher meetings that I went to in Stillwater that I absolutely hated. The national conference rotates across the nation. It's going to be in Las Vegas. So it's a super fun time. We PD and we also network with other people and have a lot of fun. And so I would just encourage you to look into the National Association, the awards, and just the overall opportunities that are there. I know we talk about that all the time, explore the opportunities, but please come talk to me or one of your OATA reps about things that you can be doing beyond just applying for awards. We have committees on the national level that we restructured and are looking for, we call it grassroots feedback. What do you all need in the classroom and on the local levels? And it's just something that I'm so glad that Dexter Metlock pulled me into College Station and told me to get in the truck, we're going. Because I would never probably ever gone to a Region 2 or gotten involved in NAAE, and now I'm serving as the Region 2 Vice President for the NAAE for our region.
So there's lots of room for your growth within the professional ranks, not just here statewide, but also across the country. As you know, Travis Bradshaw was on the national scene there for a while, And Melinda Tague can talk to you about the awards, because I've watched her over the years. She wins awards nearly every year at these events. And, you know, Wyatt talked about marketing earlier. It's hard to market ourselves, isn't it? We don't want to market ourselves, but tell us a little bit about some of those awards that you've won over the years and how important that is to the profession itself.
Well, it's kind of a promo for your program a little bit. It's been a couple of years since I've gotten one and filled it out. Actually, we've kind of been encouraging others to do it within our region. It's hard to get people to do them sometimes. And if you go to region meetings, you're probably like, come on, you need to do this award application. And there are those that will not do them. They won't touch them, that should be doing them. And then there are those that will like, okay, I'll do it this year. And, you know, it kind of seems to cycle through. And I will admit that the year that I was fortunate enough to win was kind of, okay, I'll do this one. And sometimes it's a unique project. We started an aquaponics system at Norman that was a little different for that stage, and it just happened to move through a little more. That's one area. But it just it takes some time. And honestly, the application didn't change a whole lot but through the years. But just making that little extra effort. Some of them give you free trips that you can, and some of you have earned some of those honors. But it is worth your time, even at the state level. But sometimes it might advance you a little further and get you into your Region 2 area awards as well. So definitely worth it. Schools, your schools are going to always have professional development, things you have to do right before school starts. Obviously that varies between schools on what level they do that kind of stuff. Is it just bloodborne pathogens for 3 hours, or is it, you know, actually here, let's take this something cool to your classroom when you start school the first day or the first week. And that's the ones most of us always want to give me that kind of workshop. There aren't near enough of those, unfortunately. But I think your attitude in going into them, you know, with other teachers and your fellow high school teachers, you know, your attitude going in makes a huge difference. They see what your attitude is going into that kind of setting, and if you're the showing up late and grudging through the whole thing, not that we don't do that under our breath maybe a little bit, but maybe not be quite so vocal about the negative side of some of those professional developments. We've got to do them. Some of them can be good, some of them maybe not so worthwhile, but it is something that your attitude makes a huge difference in going into them. And just things, the shows, the contests, the meetings, tours, all that, just little things that you pick up when you take part in going into some of those activities and events. Being punctual, this is one, and if you're around Mr. Boggs enough, everybody knows the saying, 5 minutes early is 10 minutes late. So I always had that mindset, being around Mr. Boggs back in college. Not that I follow through on that all the time, but that punctuality makes a huge difference. Your students see, if you show up when you're leaving for a contest at 5:30 in the morning and you're barely scraping through there and picking everybody up, and you've got parents waiting on you, and you've got kids waiting on you to leave, that's something. I will set alarms the night before, and I'm like, I probably set 3 alarms some nights because I'm thinking, I'm so tired, there's no way I want to get through this one. And it's just been a big thing with me not to be late when I go to a contest. Knock on wood, it doesn't happen very often, but you know, it's something that's going to happen on occasion. But for it to be a consistent thing, people just start to lose a little trust in whether you're going to haul their kids to the right place at the right time. You lose a little integrity, and that professionalism just kind of starts to decline if that's not something important to you, whether it be classroom, showing up on time. If you've got a planning period your first hour and you're slipping into second hour because you've been running errands, there's always things that are going on. You've got a sick animal, you've got to run errands, something's going on. But that should be a rarity when you're showing up to class late or to meetings late, things like that.
Yeah, I can't. That's dittos, right?
Preparing and planning. And you get this beat like a dead horse when you're in College of Ag and in Ag Education, and those lesson plans that our student teachers still bring out to us, and we're like, I'm glad I don't really have to do that. But still, setting aside the time to figure out what I'm going to look at this week, or at least sometimes it may feel like I've got a 5-minute drive to the Ag building, I'm going to get it figured out here really quick. Going to sleep at night thinking, what's that video that I could pull up to work in with this particular activity that I wanted to do? But when you go in and you're in your desk and you're still figuring things out and kids are coming in, what are we doing today? If they even still ask that, sometimes if you get to the point that you're not doing it, they quit asking. They just get their computers out, they start working on homework. To me, it's a poor precedent to set with your kids. If you're not prepared and ready to go, then you sure can't expect it of them when it comes to contests or going to activities or just coming to your classroom ready to do something productive.
How many of you have a 5-year plan? Ooh, good. You write those things down. How about 10 years? Any 10-year plans? Awesome. How about 1 year? Good. How do you write up that plan? How does that work for you?
I just have goals that I have written down with just a year mark. Like I want to have this started by this time or whatever. It's very basic, but that's just what I do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other thoughts?
I started with my advisory council.
Oh, good point.
Their thoughts on where the community needs.
Guys, I'll tell you right now, being a professional, the best thing you can do is an advisory council. And the worst thing you can do is an advisory council. At Tipton, we had an advisory council, just a quick story. And we were walking through our ag building, and we were talking about the needs of the ag building in this committee. Happened to have a board member on that committee, which is a great idea. I didn't think of it, but he was there. And at the end of that meeting, he said, well, you know, the football just got a new football field. Why aren't we getting a new ag building? And I said, well, I'm just asking for a few things here. No, you need to think bigger, think larger. So those guys went to bat for me, and we've got a new ag building down. So if you can't take anything else out of this, write it down. Get your advisory committee together, and let's work on improving your agricultural education footprint in your community, because there's people willing to do that. There's money willing to do that. And so that's great advice there. How about, go ahead.
Did you pick those people or go to them and ask, or how did you come about?
That's a great question. So when you're looking at the advisory committee, it probably doesn't need to be your booster club committee, because it needs to be the whole community involved, right? It needs to be somebody that's going to be in industry, or maybe 2 or 3 people that are going to be in industry. Mm-hmm. It needs to be somebody that you can count on, that'll always have your back, that is an innovator in thinking, and they want to, you know, the better the community. And so, you know, you pick 4 or 5 people on there, but just so happen to have a board member on there, and they took the information from this advisory committee to the board, and I didn't even ask them to, but here's what we discussed. And they took it, and obviously your superintendent's going to do what? Oh, that's a great idea, right? But if you as an ag teacher take that in there too, it's like, man, we're in budget crunch. How are we ever going to afford that? So it's kind of how you work that. And so I would just highly recommend really respectful people in the community, not people that are just going to try to ramrod their own agendas, but that are going to be helpful to you. And so they were at, hey, what do you need here?
And sometimes you're opening yourself up to get some suggestions. You're like, oh, I wasn't really wanting to do that. But you have to be willing to do that, because you may get a few extra things thrown in there, but there's usually good going to come out of the advisory committee, I have found as well. That in Norman, it led to a new ag building, and getting someone off of the school board involved helped a little bit too.
I also say I'm really bad at the politics, and getting somebody who has that strength made a huge difference.
Yes, that's a good point right there too.
That's a really good first professional step in your community, because they're gonna see you as you're collaborating with really good people, and so you're bringing good people together, and it just strengthens your program. Any other thoughts there on 5-year, 10-year plan? I think they're important. I don't ever sit down and do it. I always want to, but.
All right. Going beyond your duties. And I had a hard time typing this one because I feel like we do this all the time anyway as ag teachers. But sometimes what we are doing sometimes it may just benefit our ag program, but I think that's where we got to step out a little bit, especially on your schools and sizes of your schools. Where are you helping out outside of your ag department? Principals coming to you to have a little help on some things, even if it's not just building them some new something in the shop. Being on a committee, Norman was huge on committees, and so they were all constantly trying to pull you into another committee. Washington, not so much on that deal, but still want a few folks to be in on some groups that are helping do a little bit of planning, bond issues, things like that. So that kind of stuff, just being willing to take on some extra responsibilities. And it might be just community service stuff. And I think that's the other thing. Most of us as ag teachers are very much in the mindset of we're willing to do service projects. We want our kids to do service projects. That's something we encourage. But there are obviously a few out there that they won't touch them with a 10-foot pole because that means I got to do that one more thing. And I think that's where you become more of a professional, when you're willing to take on some of that extra stuff for your community, and whether it be your kids doing a service project or even you just helping with another group that's doing service projects. Any comments on that?
That's probably the best slide I could tell these young teachers that I have found that's helped me the most is, I love sports, so I go to a lot of the sporting events. And I work in their concession stands, I'll help take money at the gate. Your kids enjoy seeing you at those events, but your parents enjoy seeing you at them.
Exactly.
And then when you're looking for help, they're a little more receptive to
Definitely.
saying yes. And
Yeah.
your administration notices as well. They know who's on their team, so to speak.
Yep.
I would encourage you younger teachers to, if you're not very involved, to get more involved, even though you've got a lot on your plate. Do these that would make room for the carrots.
Yeah, we were at a basketball game and a neighboring ag teacher was in the stands with a bunch of kids, and they were in the cheer squads, whatever. He was hauling those kids to this event, and I thought, at first I was like, what are you doing? And then it's like, oh, those kids are getting to know you. The parents are getting to know you. So yeah, you can't do it enough, can you? I mean, whether it's doing the little concession stands or whatever the case. The other thing is your peers. How many of you feel like they're jealous of you? Because you got all that stuff. You're driving a new pickup, or you got new ag equipment. Well, they want to be a part of you. And remember that. Those teachers that are in your system, they want to be a part of all of that. So just continue. I seen in Wyatt's deal earlier how he emails the results. And that's a professional way of saying, hey, thank you for sending this kid in my program. So any little thing like that you can do.
Separating personal from professional. This is also one that was a little tough because especially as you have kids, your family's growing, you're like, they're going to go with me. They're going to be here. I'm not going to separate this. But in some regards, it's more of a matter of when there's maybe something negative going on personally, you don't carry that into the classroom with you. So those kids, now you're not always going to be right up in front of the classroom and getting them all excited, and kids can read you. They know if you're starting a bad day or not. But just not bringing that with you to the classroom or to an event or activity makes a huge difference. And now obviously there are certain situations that are much more, you're going to carry it with you no matter what's going on. But I think kids see how you handle situations, if they happen to know what's going on, if you're resilient, if you don't make it something that makes your whole day stop because of something that happened when you left the house that morning. But that is something that you need a little bit of separation there sometimes. And also on the side of, and I'm going to speak as a mom and a woman teaching ag, when you can take your kids with you. Rebecca has been a great example. My kids were never as quiet as her little one at this age. But, the fact that she feels comfortable doing that and bringing them, and we're welcoming to that, and that she wants to be here, and there's no big deal. I think that's important. I think that says a lot about our camaraderie within our group as well. But that kind of stuff, there's times when personal things should be there. Kids need to see, how important your kids are to you, so that when you go to their baseball games and you don't maybe set up that one more practice that night for speech, well, she's with her kids tonight. And so they learn that you got to have a little bit of some barriers, not barriers, but some times that this is my family, I want to do something for them, we'll have her on another day. And I think you have to pick and choose some of those events that you choose to share with your kids, or you're hauling them with you.
Yeah, this is a touchy subject. I mean, for many of you that are married with spouses either that aren't in the profession, this gets really tough because you've got kids at home, right? And you're off. I mean, you're off running 24/7, 365, and the spouse don't understand that. And so that becomes real important. And I would tell you this, that if you decide to back out for a few years, that may be the best few years of your life. Do not let those little ones be neglected. That's number one. I don't care how professional you want to be in this organization. That's still number one. Yeah. Okay? And don't forget it. I stepped out 6-7 years because my kids were young and I wasn't seeing them grow and I wasn't even around. So I would highly recommend, if you get into that bind where, mom's just trying to do it and she can't do it all by herself, go ahead and step out a few years. Don't be ag teaching jobs whenever you get back, whenever you're ready. Okay? The other really good advice was my uncle said, don't farm and teach ag. He was a farmer. I said, what are you talking about? Why can't I have a little farm and teach ag? Well, you're farming kids. Okay? Your importance is in that classroom. And what he was saying is, we see it all the time. We get burnout because we're trying to do 24/7 at home, raise this farm out here, whether it's animals or crops or whatever, and we neglect our professional kids that we're responsible for. So there's a balance there. That's what I'm trying to say. Make sure you're balancing it. And ask other people, hey, do you think I'm out of balance? Because they'll tell you. They'll tell you.
And one other way you can look at this last one as well, about don't let your personal feelings, all of you, and whether you're a new teacher or an experienced teacher, you're going to have those parents that are going to be your burr, and it is going to be hard some days to not carry that to the situations with your kids or that parent's kids. And so you've always got to be able to separate that situation that might be going on with the parent type of deal, whatever it may be, and always treat that kid with the same respect and love, and you're going with this and sometimes you have to grin and bear it, but
It's not the kid's fault.
Exactly, and that's what you got to tell yourself. The things that are going on, that is typically a parent situation, and so don't ever let that come out that you keep a kid from doing something, or you have a little bit of negative vibe towards a student because of some situations going on with parents. And that will always be a situation. Probably, you always think, when I get that set of parents gone, that's going to be great. Well, the next set's going to come right in behind them. So don't ever feel like you're going to completely eliminate those, because they're going to be there. You just have to learn to let it slip off your shoulders. That thick skin thing has got to come into play. Whether you got it or not, you may get it before too long. But don't ever take it out on those kids.
I would like to add something.
Yeah.
I mean, and Carrie and I could probably go on for a while on, the family thing and teaching and your kids, because we taught together for 15 years and essentially had a young one from, that was 3, and we were pushing her around and showing. When she got to 9, I mean, from the time she was 3 to 8, everybody loved her. She got to 9 and she could compete against everybody else. Well, things changed and we started having more of those burr problems or parent problems. We got through those things fine. One probably the biggest regret that I have is with our own daughter, and then we had 2 more. But anyways, with the oldest, is her and I talking. We should have kept that between her and I if we were talking about if we were having an issue with a parent or another teacher or coach or whatever it was, and kept that negativity away from her, from Courtney, because I mean, she's old enough and she understands, but we didn't need to put her in with that.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd have. that's
You
one-
forget how much they hear.
And take in, yeah.
So now she's very opinionated and like, I mean, you know, you could say, you could mention a parent's name and she whether either likes that person or not due to how they treated us. Now, how they treated us was probably wrong, and she's probably right not liking that
Yeah.
person. But we should have kept that between us. So one thing I recommend, just like she said, keep that stuff at home and away from your parents. Our deal was a little different because we were essentially teaching together and doing those things together all the time, whatever it was. But those little ones, they grow up. Enjoy them when you can. Take those times with them. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
But you have to take that time because you don't get it back.
exactly.
Whether you step out or not, that's up to you.
Yep.
But you have to put that, and that was the other thing. And we've done things different with our other two than we did with the first one. As the first one was going through, you know, we were trying to build that program at Chelsea, and it was go, 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 and yes, yes, yes. And whenever we started that, you know, she got denied, but we started that, no, we can't go do that, we can't help you do this, or whatever it may be. And then we started realizing, hey, we didn't take enough time with her, you know, with our kid. And then people started getting hurt, you know, or they wanted to be butthurt about it, so to say. Set that guideline early if you can. Hey, these are and I've done that for the last, and we've done that for the last at least 3 or 4 years. Hey, I understand it's a basketball game, but that's my girls' basketball game. I'll be there to cheer your kids on too, but we may not be able to have that practice tonight because I'm going to support my kid. So anyways, I could go on and on and on, I'm sorry, but that is very important. I mean, just, your kids are your kids. Your ag kids can be your kids too. They're ours. I mean, we treat them just like our own kids. We'll haul them to a ball game if they want to go, or whatever it may be. But your personal kids, they grow up. So, yes.
The best thing I've heard this summer that I unfortunately did not hear in time is that when you're starting out, run your program like you have a spouse and 2 kids. Whether you do or you don't, you deserve that time off. You deserve it for yourself. You'll never find a spouse if you don't. If you want one, and if you don't, that's fine. Get a home. But that's how you should run it. And I wish someone had told me that years and years ago, and I just heard it this summer.
Because eventually you're going to get burned out.
Yeah.
You do, and you just run the line.
Yeah. And we all see, you know, someone that's gone so hard and then they kind of get out of it, whether it be for a little while or permanently. And I think if you've taken that time to make sure your family stays in there and is heavily important to you, and you give them that time, it makes it easier to teach for long duration if that's what you want to do. All right. Adapting to new changes. Getting new administrators coming in. Oh, you guys are all, if you haven't taught yet. Oh, shoot. Okay.
Sorry, I don't need.
Career tech throwing in things, change this, add this. Professional, I think Wyatt may have hit on this in one of his earlier ones, the professionalism in how you communicate with your families, parents, good or bad situations. I even had a deal this last week with a former gun club member that were trying to set up contests, and they had a bad vibe with our last district contest, and it was so hard not to just re-ramp back what he was saying to me about those kids, da-da-da-da-da. And, but you had to take a breath before you send an email. Maybe write it on something else before you punch that button. Think about whether you're texting, should it be a phone call or a text, and make sure the appropriateness of how you correspond with your families and your kids is more important more now than it ever was, really. Give your best effort. Lesson plans if that's required of you. Help other teachers within your school or other teachers in your area, ag teachers. Get them better. People will rely on you so much if they know they can come to you. And I mean, I shouldn't say rely on you, but they will, if they know you're willing to talk and give them some ideas, you'll find more and more young teachers will come to you and just asking questions. And it's good to know someone older that is willing to do that. And then your attitude, obviously, we all have to have an attitude adjustment every now and then. Summer is good for that sometimes. Don't be the complainer at every meeting. We've all worked with someone that is, you go to sit through a regional meeting and it is, oh, Rose, her 800 slides, and that's more of a joke now than anything, but there are those that's all they're going to talk about the whole time is how bad that is. And it does add to your time frame, but that attitude carries over into a lot of things.
And I would say there, if you catch yourself, if your neighbor catches yourself being very negative, ask how you can change. But it's usually you. It's not asking the right questions. Maybe not dreaming the right dream. I know Bruce and I had been arguing about this over the past 25 years about the swine professionalism and all the jocks, we call it, and all that. And I know you guys, OIE, you're ranting and raving about all these professionals, okay? All right? You're the professional. You are the professional. When those guys start ranting and raving, say, wait, time out. We're the professional, okay? If there's solutions we need to come to, let's figure out a solution for our problems. But you are the professional. And if you'll go in with that in mind, you can come up with some really cool things, okay? They haven't totally got the whole organization, all right? So there are ways for you to continue to be the professional in the room. And I would say, guys, those guys are professionals too. And lean on them, okay? Because they're trying to help you in some ways, some of them. Some of them aren't.
And the last thought there is, I mean, you're going to make an impression on a kid, good or bad. So you might as well make sure it's a good one that you leave with them. And when they come out of your program, they leave with good thoughts. And I think Josh said earlier, talking about, what's the quote? Now I'm going to forget the quote. It doesn't matter what you make them learn, it's how you make them feel. That's what, you know what I'm talking about, though. But that ultimately, that is what we're in the business for. So, sorry, we pushed that a little too close.
That was my fault.
No, not at all.
Gary said I talked.
We switched rooms. That's the main reason. Thank you all for coming in. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. We have a couple of announcements real quick before we break. Okay, so first of all, we're going back to normal schedule. 201 and 202 are finally fixed in there. It still might be a little bit, but the is now working. So we have functionality in those, yay. And to help build morale, we did another drawing. So, Tim White, Chelsea Keenan, Daniel Ballard, and Marty Jones were the winners of our second prize drawing. You can stop at the little registration desk. Hopefully that'll disappear just a little. And then we're having beekeeping in here right after.
What is beekeeping about?
Hey, Brett, 202. Have talked with students.
Is that like
You might come back tomorrow, but
wait, what?
Your options, you can stay in here, you can go to 201, you can go see Randy Bean in 101 or in 439. He's doing for behind.
If that's back tomorrow, I'll go to that.
Thank you.
So is this an actual beehive tonight, or is it actual like play on
Well, I
words?
noticed it's the
Where are you going? The professor.
Is the professor doing it? Okay, let's say if it's Stillwater doing it, they have the coolest beehive system if you haven't seen it. And it's out of their shop. Well, we went saw it last.
Oh, yes, mounted on the wall.
On the wall.
I've seen pictures. I want them to see it in
I want to do
person.
that so bad.
I'm just so, thank you, Tim. Thank you.
We'll see you very soon.
Oh,
It's beehive.
it's actually beehive.
We were trying to figure out if it was like beehives or like a play on beehive, like.
No, it's actually beekeeping. No, it's like for real beekeeping. I'm gonna go over like how you would get started, the costs associated with it.